Fancy Robert is fancy. Robert, we can't hear you.
I'll bet that'll work now. Hello.
Yes, thank you.
Hello, dear Dharma friends. It's Sunday go to meeting time.
But we now have an echo.
We have an echo. What if I get rid of that? Is there an echo now?
No, perfect. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Have to wear my suit every now and then just because. And today at noon, I am participating in a celebration of life for Susan Gustafson downtown. My friend Rick's wife, who had passed away, gosh, it may be 3 weeks already. 51 years of marriage. So we will be ending today at 11:30. So we have to meditate fast. And before I do anything else, I want to point out James in Florida, sitting there. Hi, James. James, who came to visit me, and we went for a wonderful walk on the beach, during which time my cell phone fell through my hole in my pocket and became lost in the surf. And James looks like an ordinary human being, but he is actually a person who spent an hour in the surf with a flashlight looking for my phone on the bottom of the ocean. So it was a deed of the highest order. We did not succeed, and then it took me 6 days to get a phone again. And I am both addicted to and dependent upon my phone. So that was very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. So, I'm very grateful, James. Thank you for that time. It was good. So I think.
Record, Robert?
I beg your pardon?
Will you record?
Oh, will I record? Yeah, I should record. Thank you. I think I started the other two things. Yep. There we go. Record on this computer.
Recording in progress.
There she is. So, how lovely to see you all here. Building update. Major painting starts on Monday morning. I'm meeting the painter there tomorrow at 9:15. Turns out that we have to paint all the offices completely. We thought we were going to do a patchwork, but it just doesn't work. So, and grand opening probably still in early January. We will be getting into the building before, but there will be a lot to do to get it habitable. So I have forgotten for some time to do our modified chants. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. The world pulls us in so many ways. Take refuge in this. Take refuge in that. Take refuge in Black Friday. Maybe you could find the perfect thing that you're missing. So let us sing or listen from the heart. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. Please let us cultivate a moment of gratitude. What pops to mind? It might be fun to set an alarm for every hour on the hour all day and have it be a reminder to find something to be grateful for, to bring to mind something to be grateful for. There's been lots of rain, too much in some places. I have family in Canada right in the midst of the flooding in Chilliwack, east of Vancouver. Incredible rains. But I'm grateful for the water we have here, the rain we've had. Everything's green, soggy. I'm grateful for water running in my house. Imagine that. We have 2 indoor toilets that flush. We have electricity. I woke up and got out of bed effortlessly. Almost no pain in my hip. Thich Nhat Hanh said that any morning you wake up without a headache or a toothache is a morning to celebrate. To celebrate no toothache today. And there's so much more. And so with a little foundation of gratitude, let's pause. Let's go gardening. The gardening of the heart. The word bhavana, B-H-A-V-A-N-A, which we translate as meditation, actually literally translates as cultivating. So the Buddha was a very savvy fellow, and all of his teachings are ecological in structure. He pointed out the way things are. And then how it is that with this experience of self that we have, that we can actually plant wholesome crops. We can uproot greed, hatred, and ignorance. We can cultivate and provide fertilizer for the crops we do want to grow: love, compassion, wisdom. It's a brilliant model. Not the only model, but a brilliant one. So let's find that way to sit comfortably upright. One of the main ingredients in our gardening skill set is mindfulness. Being aware of what is in the moment. We can notice the body's contact with the chair. Awareness can receive the life of the hands. It can receive the life of the feet. The life of the face can co-arise with awareness. And every breath offers an invitation to be present in the middle of life, in this moment. This moment which is the only moment that ever exists. Now. This mysterious capacity of awakeness, of mindfulness, also illuminates, well, it illuminates everything. And the everything includes wandering minds, thoughts, moods, all of our neurotic patterns. It includes pleasure and pain. It includes liking and disliking. And so let us be intimate with in-breathing and out-breathing. We cultivate concentration, the capacity to remain with our chosen training object, in this case, the breath. Again and again, thousands of times, tens of thousands of times, hundreds of thousands of times. Awakening in the trances of the mind. And then with that awakeness, embracing the reality of in-breathing right now. To persist with the gardening metaphor, we plant seeds of mindfulness. We plant seeds of faith and confidence. We plant seeds of concentration. And we nourish the emergence of wisdom and discernment. On the weeding side, we notice and don't feed desire and grasping. We notice and withdraw from aversion, hatred, disliking. We notice and uproot restlessness, agitation, worry. We just change the track. We uproot sloth and torpor, dullness, laziness. And we once again change the track away from doubt and despair, dispiritedness, conflicting belief systems. As is true in the soil, the same is true in the mind and heart. It takes time. It takes repetition. It takes profoundly loving application of ourselves. To practice this cultivation of the heart-mind, this bhavana, is to cultivate and participate in a certain quality of stable awakeness. Time and again and again and again, the trances of the self exert themselves. There's nothing much more interesting in life, I find, than observing the waking up from the dream. We can be lost in some multi-dimensional reality of the future or the past. We can be involved in some conversation fantasized of a past or a future. And then, poof, it's gone. Where did it come from and where does it go? Who knows? But there is this that knows it. There is this mindful presence. Kind, loving, mindful presence. It does take effort to do this. It takes persistence. Growing a garden is actually a year-round affair. We might put in a cover crop for the winter and then mulch and then when the temperature changes in the spring, we wind up doing something different, cultivating, adding soil amendments, planting at the right time, watering, weeding, reaping the crops, preparing the soil for another winter. And so it is with the garden of the heart-mind. Time and again, waking up and coming home to what's happening now. To the fact of in-breathing and out-breathing, for instance. This is the very moment of our life. There are two remarkable delusions in which we create a past and have opinions about whether it was good or bad or so on. And we create fantasies of a better future, or we fear fantasies we create of the future. And what is there really? There's right now. There's this. Along with mindfulness and persistence and faith and curiosity, we also prepare our garden for crops of love and compassion. And the planting and reaping always take place now. So we might begin with, I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am right now. So all the striving can just fall away. We might invoke the great mantra, I love you, with your own name at the end. And if that's difficult, that points out some important practice. Why would we not love ourselves? If we don't, it's just a bad habit. And when I'm hurting, which happens a lot, doesn't it? When there's dukkha, I intend to hold myself in sweet compassion. Sweet compassion. So it's not, what's wrong with you, you're hurting, or what's wrong with you, you're depressed, or instead it's, oh, it's you, my beloved. How can I help? How can I help? And as we practice for our own benefit, we also practice inevitably for the benefit of those around us, of those in our community, of everyone. There's only one garden of the heart which we all share. So may all beings, beings of the air, the earth, and the waters, mammals, marsupials, fish, birds, may those humans who will be born today and those who are dying as we speak, may everyone share in the merits of our practice. Thank you all for being here. I have a picture I want to show you, and I'm going to just do it from my iPad. I've spoken of the saga, the journey of going to Florida to pick up my mother-in-law, Rita, and she's here. And it was a success story. This was Rita on Thanksgiving Day. She was so happy to be with her family. Her grandchildren, who are 20 and almost 18, were right there on the couch with her and engaging with her. And I got several very sweet videos that I sent to extended family members. She's here. It's quite wonderful. Jen's going over to spend some time with her this afternoon. She's in a fine place called Touchmark. I spent an hour and a half with her there during the intake, while Jen was off dealing with the medical people. And we sat in the midst of the common area. And the wonder of wonders, the staff like each other. Who knew? When we left the other place in Florida, no one really even said goodbye to us. It's like a warehouse in a way. But the staff like each other, and they're nice to the guests. So, pretty cool. I have one announcement I want to make, and I want to share my screen. Is it going to work? I think so, yes. That's it. Yeah. Here's a nice picture of Candle, my dear friend Candle. And there's a correction up here. Please mark your calendars with corrected dates. Candle teaches the first and third Sundays, December 5th and 19th from 6:30 to 8:30. The second Monday, which is the 13th, 6:30 to 8:30. And Tuesday, tea time from 3 to 4:30. But mostly I wanted to point out she is on the 4th of December, which is next Saturday. She's doing a day-long retreat on the 5 strengths, the 5 faculties, which you'll recognize: faith or confidence, energy or persistent effort, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom or discernment. And I'm going to talk about those factors and the benefits of doing retreat. Some of you have done many, many retreats, but for others of you I know have not. And sometimes people are frightened of it. It's like, well, how could I do that? So I want to talk about that in my Dharma talk, and the incredible benefits of getting into new terrain, or being reminded of new terrain that we've forgotten. So that's Candle coming up, and I'll put the link in the chat while Jim is doing a brief movement meditation. I do have to turn into a pumpkin at 11:30. So Jim, is there anything else that should be mentioned?
No, my Qigong thing isn't until the 18th, so we've got plenty of time to talk about that.
Great. Thanks.
And I will spotlight myself for easy mirror imaging. And if you would like to join me in a short mindful movement program, let's stand and get in touch with our connection with the earth. So here we are, in touch with our feet, in touch with the earth, in touch with our feet. In the classical discourses, they talk about the 4 positions of the body: sitting, standing, lying down. I missed one. Walking. Walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. So we've been sitting for a while. We can bring our attention to this standing form that has an earth substance feel to it, a steadiness. It's consistently reaching into the earth, and the earth is reaching up into this standing form. And we can become aware of 3 things: movement, moving back and forth, just keeping our feet in touch with the earth, but moving the weight back and forth. We can give this movement a name. One of my teachers calls it pouring. So he can just use a label, and we become mindful of pouring energy into one leg and pouring it into another and feeling the movement. Just by remembering, recalling a name, the pouring label brings about this movement until we intend to pause. We pause and sink into stillness. So we can train the mind with this standing form by remembering movement, remembering stillness, and knowing that we know this is stillness. Out of stillness, pouring. Out of pouring, we'll add turning. Pouring over here and turning. Bringing one shoulder back at a time. Pouring into one leg and turning. Pouring into the other leg. Feeling sensations. Knowing that we're turning. Knowing that we're pouring. Knowing that we're turning. And then the gladness in the body to have the smooth flow from one side to the other. We become aware of gladness in the body. And then coming to pause in the center and being still again, enjoying this gladness, this relaxation, this balance. And this time, as we shift the weight, we're going to lift the heel of one foot and then pour into the other side and lift the heel. Notice the sensations in the feet. Lifting one heel and the other. We can lift an arm on the opposite side and do some standing in place. Pausing at the top. Pausing at the top. Out of stillness, a flow. Whether standing or walking, seated or lying down. This is called the sublime abiding, aware of movement, pause, aware of stillness. Begin. Resting in stillness again with the arms relaxed. Returning to our connection with the earth. Sinking into the earth while the earth responds to our presence. Supporting us. And then we move from stillness to opening and coming down the center. Opening out, and then releasing down. Opening out, sensations in the arms, in the hands, in the knees, in the feet. The entire organism working into a circular stretch, sinking. Bringing the hands together in gratitude, another chance to practice. And we'll see you tomorrow morning at the morning meditation, or we'll see you on next Sunday. Thank you for joining me. We'll move on to our next chapter so we can end on time.
Thank you, dear Jim. Am I back? I think I am.
I can hear you.
Great. Ah. We've had quite a nice run of this, haven't we, since the beginning of COVID? Certainly has enriched my life. Sundays were happening before, but so I'm grateful for your presence, and I'm grateful for my little house. I spend a lot of time here. I was up early this morning, 4. Had a long time to sit and had a little nap, wondering what to talk about today and doing some other homework assignment I have in my own studies. I want to speak about the benefits of taking time out of our lives, so to speak, out of our lives, to do retreat. I would like to invite you to the 5-day stay-at-home retreat that Jim and I are conducting early January, but it's full with a waiting list, so I can't do that. There will be more of those through the year. And the day-long retreats will begin when the centers open again, so we'll be having retreats in person. I must say I'm a little dismayed with this Omicron emergence. It's like enough already. But maybe it won't be so bad. They don't know. We don't know yet. But I guess I want to do this partially in the context of Candle's half day that she's going to do. But maybe before that, first I want to this. I now have a functioning phone. It was hard being without it. There are responsibilities that I could not fulfill. I could not respond to texts and so on. But there also is a factor of distraction and comfort that I missed. And I made really good use of that as an illumination of a way that I distract from the present moment and go into fantasies. I mean, the mind does that all by itself, but having a phone really can do it. I watched my stepson playing a video game on our TV in the living room this morning, and oh my goodness, they have become so complicated, and the imagery is so vivid and quite wild, otherworldly. And he spent almost all of yesterday doing that. Hard to get him off. So, on occasion, there's something we can do which is incredibly beneficial. And that is to go in a certain way cold turkey with our distractions and addictions in the world. To turn off the phone, to turn off the email, to turn off social relationship, to turn off taking care of the kids, to turn off taking care of the spouse or the partner, to turn off being responsible to the world, to turn off the news, to turn off the entertainments, and then come face to face with, whoa, that's me. Nose to nose with ourselves, with our own reality. Nose to nose with the discomforts in the body and the pleasures in the body. Nose to nose with hunger and not hunger. Nose to nose with the moods. Nose to nose with the impulse to use substances or distractions of all kinds. And to just be. Way back when I went to Burma for literally a few days with Tangpulu Sayadaw, his advice was, for on retreat, become deaf and unable to speak, deaf, blind, and eat less. So there's a restraint of the senses. A modern image of this, or a modern metaphor, is like if you want to work on the operating system of your computer, you have to turn off all the programs. You have to simplify it. Maybe even you start the computer in safe mode that shuts down all kinds of stuff, because then you can see what's happening in the operating system. And in order to see what's happening in our operating system, we have to simplify. I have an experience. I've had the privilege and really responsibility in a way. For the last year and a half or so, I've gone 6 times. My promise is that I will go once per quarter for 5 to 7 days of silence on retreat. And every time that happens, every time I get to do that, after a day or two, I get a little more rested. I realize, I'd gone quite unconscious again. There's qualities of consciousness that just drift away through the busyness of life. And one dishonest way to advertise retreats would be to say, come on retreat and you'll experience continuous bliss. Fact is, you may well experience more bliss and delight and joy and beauty than you've ever experienced in your life. And you may well experience whatever it is you're running from. The depression or the despair or the self-hatred or the angry thoughts about a former spouse or the anguish over the broken down relationship with a child or the terror about what's happening in the world. It's all there. But instead of denying it and going blithely on our way, we actually sit down and face directly into it, and we become wise. We become loving and compassionate and wise. And it's an organic process. It's a very natural thing. And sometimes retreats are themed. I have a confession. I'm teaching 2 retreats at Hollyhock next year, and they asked me if I would write a different blurb for one of them, and so I need to do that. But I always teach the same thing. There's really only one thing I'm interested in teaching. Be here now. Love yourself. Forgive yourself. Forgive the world. Learn how to live now and come home out of the trances. Come home into life. There's only one thing that's worth doing, in my view. Really? Is that true? Yeah, I think that's true. So, Candle is doing this half day on the powers, the meditative powers, the spiritual powers, and joke. Do you know why it's boring to talk to Buddhists? They always talk with a list. They always have a list. There's the 7 of these and the 6 of those and the 5 of those and the 1 of these and the 3. And those lists are very helpful. I know a lot of them. And sometimes when one is confused, I actually have on my wall in my office a very beautiful drawing. It's a bunch of concentric circles of really a huge number of the lists. In fact, I can't do it till tonight, but I will put a high resolution copy of that on my blog. And my blog is robertbeatty.com/blog, or robertbeatty.com, and just look for blog and click on it. But I will do that because it's really a very interesting document. So the 5 faculties or the 5 powers are faith, or faith/confidence, energy or persistent effort, our old friend mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. What's faith? Whenever I think of this, I think of this example. I don't know. I can do it here in this, I think. This is a guitar capo. It's maybe not the best thing to use. That'll work. So, here's 2 hands. What do you think is going to happen if I let go of this capo? You think it's going to fall? Do you have faith in the falling? Do you have confidence? Let's try the experiment. It did. What do you think if I tried it again? It did. And if I did it again? It's getting kind of repetitive, isn't it? It's like, well, why bother trying it? Well, it's through repetition that we begin to have faith in something. Newton's force equals mass times acceleration, and those are laws. Those are the way things are. And the law of gravity is such that if there's an object of great mass, which is the Earth, and this, which has a little bit of mass, and they're in close proximity, they pull each other. They pull toward each other. I don't think there is a unified theory of gravity yet, but it's just something that exists. And something that grows in time with practice is faith. And it's not faith like blind faith. You must believe this if you're going to be a Buddhist. It's, I've come back to this 5,000 times or 10,000 times. And waking up happens. It's predictable. If I put these conditions together, then I start suffering less. I become more loving of myself. I become more loving of others. It's like the refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha. The more often we remind ourselves of that, and the more often we actually do it when difficulties arise, we discover, this is a lifeboat that works. We start to have faith in our lifeboat or in our life jacket. And then there's another quality, which is one of the 7 enlightenment factors as well, overlapping lists: persistence. I've been meditating now for 50 years. It took a really long time before meditation, formal meditation, sitting down, was really a part of every day. There was a long time there where I couldn't quite figure out why my meditation, where my concentration wasn't developing, and then it occurred to me in an interesting sort of way that maybe it didn't really work to smoke marijuana every day and meditate every day. I was meditating for an hour a day, but somehow or another it wasn't really developing. And then I discovered that I was avoiding reality rather profoundly, and stopped that and discovered I was really depressed. And then I wound up getting a bunch of therapy for years, actually, and I used SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, very effectively to help me through that depression and the work that had to come through that. But I did keep coming back, and I did keep going to retreats. And just as there are short wandering minds, there are wandering minds that go on for days. Right? You forget. Oh, I forgot to meditate. I was too busy to meditate. Whatever. But then over time, we become more focused, more persistent. With the faith, we discover that, this meditation stuff, this really works. This life jacket works. So I think I'm going to be sure to get to it. And the same is true within a particular meditation sitting, for instance, that here I am sitting, and there can be kind of just drifting around and not doing much. Or there can be a persistent returning to, this is what I want to do. I want to be awake. I'm going to come home to the breath. I'm going to sit up straight. I'm going to actually set an alarm, and then I'm going to sit here till it goes off. And then, of course, what happens over time is that meditation becomes one's life. And then instead of, now I'm going to meditate for a half an hour, by golly, I'm going to set my alarm and check it off in my calendar, it becomes instead, so I can be mindful no matter what I'm doing. And also, how long do I have before I have to leave for work? Could I afford another half hour on my cushion? And so the persistence really builds up. And it grows, it bears fruit. And then the cultivation of mindfulness. I just had a whole series of thoughts that it's intriguing to me that until I was 23 or so, about 22 maybe, when I ran into the Dharma in India, I'd never heard the word mindfulness. No one had ever, I never had the bandwidth or the connection. I'd never had the notion that I could practice something and be awake. I was trying. I know just before I did that first retreat, I did 6 weeks of very, very challenging hiking in Nepal. This was before trekking was a very commercialized thing. My girlfriend and I went to Jhanas in western Nepal. We went in from Pokhara into Jhanas, and then we came back on the way back, and we were mountaineers, and so we had this idea we wanted to get to Annapurna Base Camp, and so we went up and we climbed over a ridge and went down into Gondram, I guess it was, and I tried to invent meditation on that hike because I was freaking out. My girlfriend had told me she was not going to marry me and live happily ever after when we came home, and I was in codependent freak out. And I was staying stoned much of the time. But then I'd hitchhiked all over the world, and I would think, okay, I left Sydney, and then I got that ride with the semi-trailer guy, and then we went to here, and so I reconstructed journeys of my life, because where my mind went, if I wasn't doing something with it, was hell. And there were other remembrances I had. That one of the things I liked about mountaineering, particularly, is that when you like way back when I climbed the Matterhorn and a bunch of other mountains in Switzerland, and you set out at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m, and so you're out on the glaciers on crampons way before dawn, and you're doing step, kick, pause, step, kick, pause. And I discovered that I could have a quiet mind doing that. But then I got a complicated set of circumstances, but I encountered Goenkaji in India, and mindfulness was so straightforward. Remember to be mindful. Though I didn't understand it like I do now, I really misunderstood it as concentration, and it's not that. It's that capacity of being aware, and we are capable of developing it. That can be a significant part of the garden of our hearts. And that's so on the one hand, we have mindfulness. We have first this faith. We have the faith to do it. And then we have persistence, and we then cultivate mindfulness, and then we cultivate concentration. And the how of that is really simple. These are all really simple, actually. But the how of it is pick a concentration object and return to it. And so mindfulness of breathing provides a perfect concentration object, which is rising, falling. Breathing in, noticing the nostrils, breathing out. Mind wanders, come back. And once one is back, stay. They call it initial application and sustained application. And so we develop concentration. And in fact, concentration can be developed. The human mind is so much more pliable than most of us know. We call it now neuroplasticity. Well, people have known about how to cultivate these wholesome factors for thousands of years. Way before the Buddha, people knew a lot about this. Because it works. So we develop concentration, and we develop concentration such that over time, it's possible to use concentration and just go quiet. To just be with the breath. And then when a thought arises, loss or a memory, or one finds oneself in a trance of the past or future, or craving or disliking, mindfulness becomes so much more attuned that those trances, those fantasies, those phenomena are illuminated almost immediately. And so the acting out of our personality becomes more and more obvious to us. So we have the faith to proceed, the persistence to dive in, and the mindfulness to illuminate, to be present, and the concentration to focus. And just like in science, if we want to study stars at a great distance, we create remarkable telescopes. They're just about to launch another huge telescope that is, I think, 100 times more powerful than the Hubble. I mean, it's going to be quite something. And what does it do? Well, it concentrates in the stability of space. It concentrates on a place in space and then just stays concentrated for a long time, and then information comes in. The same is true with MRIs and electron microscopes. There's a concentration of energy. So we learn to concentrate, and with this concentration, it's not just concentration for its own sake, though concentration can be very blissful. And we're capable of enormous levels of concentration. In the Buddhist teachings, there's these states called the Jhanas, which have to do with more and more effortless concentration, which results in great ease and results in great equanimity. Difficult to distract. And then finally, these all manifest as wisdom. And what's wisdom? It's not information. There's an infinite amount of information in the world. In fact, there was the simile of the leaves. Can I remember? The Buddha reached down and picked up a handful of leaves from the forest and said, and he called himself the Tathagata, the one such gone, rather than I. A little awkward. But what the Tathagata knows is like the leaves in the forest. What he teaches is like these few leaves here, because these are the leaves that lead to freedom from suffering. These are the leaves that lead to awakening. And so with this mind, which is capable of being awake, of concentrating, we start observing the reality of impermanence, which is blazing at us with the brilliance of a million suns, Ajahn Buddhadasa said. All the time, it's always here. Last week I was sitting on the beach a little bit in Florida, Hollywood Beach, and watching the waves come in. And they come in and they form and then they disappear. Form and disappear and form and disappear. And they've been doing that for millions of years on that beach. That's strange. And one can go off into thinking about it, or stay mindful, concentrated. And then some deep intuitions about impermanence can happen. And we can watch the waves. I was watching this morning as we were sitting here, that waves of trance states will come in and then wake up, and then they're gone. And a wave of trance state, a wave of selfing, and then it's gone. And so it's one thing to have an intellectual knowledge of impermanence, and it's another to have a deep intuitive understanding, which then starts, what's the word? Disintegrating. It starts illuminating the delusion of permanence. And then if we have these factors, this faith and persistence and mindfulness and concentration, we also then can notice dukkha, the unsatisfactoriness. I noticed on this trip to Florida, it was very low grade anxiety. Just a lot of the time, what's not going to work? And it wasn't bad. It was just kind of normal uncertainty. And then it was particularly true getting to the airport and getting on the plane and the flights. And there was a sense of, a sense of dread or something, which was of no help, but maybe it was part of normal human functioning. But anyway, it wasn't sukha, it wasn't delight, it was dukkha. And then finally, there's almost finally, there's the truth of anatta that becomes more and more obvious. As we watch with a mind that can be calm and focused and persistent, we start noticing that the self comes into being and then disappears. The worries come into being and then they disappear. The planning comes into being and disappears. And then, so that's a remarkable insight that changes our lives. And I guess the last thing I want to say, and then I do have to turn into a pumpkin soon, is the first thing the Buddha taught was the Four Noble Truths. There is dukkha, there's the cause of dukkha, which is wanting things to be different than they are. And there's the sweet relief of that ceasing. There's the nirvanic relief, which is not another planet. It's not something that happens after we die. It's something that happens right here, right now. And the Eightfold Path is the way to develop that. And so as we bring these 5 faculties into maturity, we also start really understanding the Dharma. We start really understanding how to suffer less. And so there's a momentum that builds. And then life throws bigger and bigger bowling balls down the tube at us, and we learn how to deal with bigger and bigger challenges. And we learn how to be more loving and more compassionate in situations where the suffering gets loud. So all that by way of saying, Kendall's going to spend 4 hours on those faculties, and I think it would be, I'm sure it would be a morning well spent next Saturday. So with that, I need to be on time for this event, which is at the Armory downtown. Starts at noon. To honor Susan. 51 years Susan and Rick were married, and it was a real partnership. They did a lot together. They did a lot of good for the city of Portland. Rick has worked with the NATO family for, I think, 2.5 decades. Before that, he was a member of the legislature, and his devotion has always been to serving, and to serving on a big scale. He was pretty personally responsible for the fact of their street being streetcars in Portland. Yeah. So I wish there was some time to chat, but there isn't. So I invite you to unmute and let's go out with may all beings receive all blessings. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam.
Mangalam.
Are you ready? Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu,
Sadhu.
Oh, is Molly there? Molly? Aaron?
Awesome.
There's Molly. I think we should sing again. You want to lead us? Let me highlight you. This would be much more fun. Wait a minute. Let me get to you. May Spotlight. There you are. Hooray. Are you excited? You're bouncing up and down. All right. You want to lead us? May all beings be happy? May all beings be happy.
Be happy. May all beings be happy.
May all beings be
Be
happy.
happy.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Molly. Oh, boy.
Here's one excited little girl.
This is even more. We're energized Rosalind, I think. Rosalind jumps up and down. Oh.
Yeah.
Bye, Aaron and Molly. Thank you, sweet Molly.
Bye.
Robert.
Right.
Thank you, Robert. Bye,
Thank you.
Bye, Kimberly.
Great.
Bye.
Bye, Molly.
Bye.
See you next time.
Prepare
Oh,
for the
nice
leap
glass.
to hyperspace. Whoosh.